Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7 as we finally round up 2022. Now this video here is going to be kind of one of the few videos I'm releasing to kind of round up where GT7 is at the end of 2022, and we're going to start it off with my top 5 favourite post-launch DLC cars of 2022. So all the cards released from April all the way to the end of December are all eligible to be in this one. If a car was in there at launch, it is not eligible. I'm not going to really consider like special editions like the Pantera or the Mangusta that we got, and I'm not going to kind of consider the 25th anniversary. They're kind of just, you know, limited edition cars. You had a Dior one, you had the 25th anniversary, so they're not included. But with that being said, let's go ahead and start, and let's see what we're going to begin with. So in at number 5, we've got the Ford Sierra RS500 Cosworth. In my opinion, one of the coolest cars ever made and one of the coolest cars to ever wear a Ford badge. It's an absolutely awesome machine, this, and with kind of how iconic it really is, especially, you know, from, you know, for people like in the UK, Australia and such, to see it actually come to Gran Turismo 7 was absolutely awesome. Now, it isn't the best overall car, don't get me wrong. It does have its downsides. It can't be like sort of driven absolutely everywhere. It's not the fastest, it's not the best handling and such. But just seeing this car come to the game, whether it was kind of just seeing the silhouettes for the first time or seeing it actually enter the game, the hype around this car was absolutely ridiculous, and it doesn't disappoint. Look, I don't think anybody was expecting too much from this car. Obviously it's from the 1980s. It's kind of, you know, going to be a little bit off the pace of something more modern, but what you can actually do with it is mightily impressive. Obviously coming along with Road Atlanta in the same update, it was just an absolutely great time for GT7 fans and really for the game in general, and I think seeing this car enter was just something special, to be honest. It's such an overlooked car by many racing games, especially the road going version, and to have the customize, you know, the amount of customization we do where we can kind of turn road cars into race cars and such in this game means that there's many different ways you can really run this car. Absolutely awesome, absolutely worth, you know, taking a spot in my top 5. Now there was many good cars, but I just felt like with the kind of special connection I have with this car, with the amount of love I have for it, you know, growing up seeing it kind of winning races and seeing previous footage of it, I just had to put it in there. In all honesty, just on cool factor alone, this car could easily make this list. You know, if it was kind of going off of what I personally have a bias towards, then it would definitely be this in first place in terms of post-release cars. So yes, the Ford Sierra RS500 Cosworth takes the 5th spot on my top 5 list to get us begun with. Yeah, absolutely amazing car. So glad to see it. Thank you for Polyphony for including this one. So let's get on to number 4. Will it be a surprise or will it be a pretty obvious pick? Well, for number 4, I've gone with the Super Silhouette. Now, this car is a bit of a strange one in my honest opinion. So it only ever got featured before now in Gran Turismo 2. After that, it disappeared. It wasn't even in Gran Turismo 4, 5 or anything like that, and they brought it back for GT7. And I remember a lot of people getting insanely hyped up for this car when it came, you know, the silhouettes got released, and people were like, oh yeah, that's the Group 5, that's the Super Silhouette, you know, I can't wait for this to come into the game and such. And then I feel like, you know, after the first few weeks, many people just kind of forgot about it, whereas for me, it's always been kind of one of my go-to Group 3 cars. Yes, it's not the best. It's insanely fast in a straight line. It has a ton of turbo lag, you know, very typical of the time this car comes from. But in all honesty, I just absolutely love it. It's got so much personality, so much character. It's such a standout, different looking machine that I honestly hope to see more cars along this line. I just really cannot complain about it. I reviewed it, I loved it, I used it for weeks after, I still go back to it today. So in all honesty, I feel like it does deserve that 4th spot, just because, you know, it's one of those cars that I just keep coming back to. A lot of cars that get added, you'll kind of use them while they're new or they're fresh, and then they kind of just fade off into, you know, the distance, and every now and again you might jump in them. Whereas this car, it's just had the longevity for me, and I think it's just down to the fact that it is the Super Silhouette. It's really just kind of unique neat looking. In terms of performance, it's not bad. It's not overall the fastest. It features a ton of turbo lag, like I said, but it really can keep up if you push it to the max. And in terms of its straight line speed, it's an absolute rocket. So there we have it. The Nissan Skyline Super Silhouette comes in my 4th place. But what is going to be 3rd place? Will it be something that's predictable? Have you predicted these two being in there so far? Let me know how you're going. So let's get on to P3 and see what my 3rd favourite car post-launch for GT7 was. So those of you that might have been around the channel for quite a while might have known this one may have crept in when I reviewed it all the way back in, I believe, like June. Was it the same update as the Super Silhouette, or... Yeah, I think it might have been, So, yeah, anyway, the Porsche Cayman GT4. You guys would have known I absolutely loved it if you watched that review. If you haven't, or you're newer to the channel, yeah, I haven't really talked about this car too much, apart from really my Alfa Romeo review. And in all honesty, I think this is one of the best kind of jump in and go cars in the entire game. I feel like anyone can really just jump in this, even fully upgraded, and have full confidence in this car. The way it handles, the way it looks, and to be honest, the way it sounds. Just have a listen to this. In my opinion, it sounds absolutely incredible. In all honesty, this is a brilliant car, and even driving it now, after it's been out for a good few months, I honestly, whenever I jump in it, just get a big smile on my face, because I just remember, how I felt towards this car when it first got released to GT7. It was honestly one of the first cars that I really jumped in kind of post-update and had a big grin on my face, because it was so unexpected. I remember a lot of people hating on it when they saw the silhouettes and stuff, thinking, oh, it's just going to be boring, yet another Porsche and stuff. But I kind of jumped in with it with a kind of open mind, and it paid off. Like, I was massively surprised. I did not expect this car to be that good. It is honestly such a good car, and like I said, for any skill level, whether you've been playing the game for years, or well, should I say, been playing Gran Turismo for years, or you're new to the series, I feel like anyone could really just jump in, have a ton of fun, customize it to their heart's content, and just really go fast. And I feel like that's the main enjoyment this car brings. It's still as great as ever. Yes, maybe P3 seems a bit too less for me, because of just how good it was when I reviewed it and how much of a smile I had on my face. But in all honesty, there is a couple of cars that just better it, but only just, because this is where it gets really tight. From P3 to P1, I could have just mixed them all up and kind of just had whatever I wanted wherever. But yeah, it was a difficult decision, and I had to put the Porsche Cayman GT4 in P3. So let's go and have a look at P2. Have you guessed it yet? Well, if you haven't, you probably don't know the channel this well. This is the Alfa Romeo Giulia. Now, a lot of people may have thought this would have been first, because it's one of the most recent in my mind cars. It's one of the latest cars to the game, and when I reviewed it, I said it is pretty much perfection, and I stand by that. It is an absolutely amazing car, very much like the Porsche, but this time there was a lot of hype around this car. It didn't kind of come out of nowhere. People knew it was coming. It was on the data mine list, and to have it come into the game when it was finally officially announced was absolutely awesome. But I don't think anybody expected it to be, well, quite this good. Again, it's just another one of those cars that you can just jump in, fully modify whatever you want to do, whether it's standard, modified, whatever, and just have fun and go fast. Anyone can really have confidence with this car, and that's what's so good about it. It's accessible. It's not that expensive. In all honesty, it's about 220,000, but you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. On paper, this car doesn't really look that good. It's just putting out over 500 brake. It's obviously a 4-door without anything in the rear seat, apart from a roll cage, which I think is absolutely amazing. Yeah, overall, I honestly just think this is an absolutely amazing car. Honestly, the Giulia GT-AM is just fantastic. You can build it like a race car, or you can keep it standard, and it just kind of just performs everywhere. Like, I've not ever jumped in this car and had a bad race or been bored or anything. I just think there's something about this car that's so alive and just so different, as well as being like so accessible and drivable. Like, finding a limit with this car is almost impossible, because it just seems to impress you each and every time. You'll find yourself going faster and faster through the corners, and you just never end up finding the limit, because the car will always just do what you want it to do. I honestly think in terms of a car having so much hype around it and then actually delivering on that promise, the Alfa Romeo just cannot be beaten. Polyphony did a great job with this car model. I feel like it looks perfect. It's just really, really unique features. Yes, it's not the most customizable, but in all honesty, this is literally the kind of go-to, version of this car. It's like the top of the line. So look, it kind of makes sense that there's not too much you can do with it, because let's be honest, you can't really change perfection, can you? I just absolutely love this car. Great to see. So the Alfa Romeo takes P2, which might make you all think, well, what's going to be P1 then? Well, I don't know if people would have predicted this or not. I can't necessarily say that a lot of people would have seen this one coming, mainly because my channel was much smaller when I reviewed it. But in all honesty, there's a reason for P1. In fact, before we actually get to P1, you guys just comment what you think it might be before you actually see it. That way I can just see if people kind of know me or not. So yeah, let's go and check it out. Anyway, I'll give you like, let's say 5 seconds to comment what you think P1 will be. You ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So how many of you guessed this one? The Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak. Really, I think looking back, it couldn't have been anything else. This car is obviously a massive legend in terms of the Gran Turismo franchise. And if you guys know me well enough, you'll know I started with Gran Turismo 2 all the way back in 1999 as my first ever game. Not only my first racing game, but my first ever game. So this car holds a special place in my heart. It was absolutely crazy back then, and I feel like it's back and better than ever in GT7. It's so usable, so versatile. You can grind every event with it, apart from Spa, obviously, the lack of headlights might affect you there. But it's just such a cool car, and it's one of the craziest cars to ever exist, even in terms of like competing with the VGTs for just, wild cars and wild machinery. I honestly just think this stands up. It's a much older car now, but it never ever feels that way. And I think that's testament to this car. It's just timeless. It's always going to be legendary, especially in kind of the Gran Turismo community. It's always going to be loved. And I just feel like it was a brilliant addition, and it didn't disappoint. I thought it's an older car now. It's probably going to feel underpowered and such, but nope. It's as crazy as it's ever been. And yes, you can still wheelie it if you really want to. So yeah, takes the first place in my post-launch cars for GT7 for 2022. So there we have it. Those are my top 5 post-launch cars for GT7 for 2022. In all honesty, I feel like we've actually had some very, very good cars come to their game. Next up will actually be my top 5 worst post-launch cars, which may surprise a few of you, but there's a few cars that I honestly just feel a little bit different about, especially now, time's passed and such. So I feel like that'll be quite an interesting one, so tune in tomorrow so you don't miss that one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. I hope you've had a good festive period, and getting ready for the new year, feeling all revived and ready. I know I am. I'm ready for a little bit of a break, and then we'll get back to the normal things into the new year and carry on this momentum. Thank you so much for your support. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you all later on. Take care, guys. Peace.